I got it. Nick, could you say the prayer for us, please?
Sure. Let's go to the Lord in the word of prayer as we get started. My Father, we thank you tonight for your grace and your mercy, your love and kindness towards each and every one of us. We pray for those, Father, who might be in harm's way tonight, that might be serving us, protecting us, and doing those things, God, that is required of them. You just forgive us when we fall short. Bless now this hopefully short meeting tonight, that your will be done and that you will be glorified. For we ask it in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
See that you invoked divine intervention for a short meeting tonight.
I like that. All right, well, we barely have a quorum, but we're here. I'd ask everybody that has not already done so, please sign in. This is our 2023 budget adoption hearing. Our first order of business, we're going to have a presentation by Sean Scott, but he had to step out. So,
Can I review real quick?
yes, please do.
From the public hearing that we had on the 11th, there were a couple corrections that were to be made. One of them was to move $4,100 into rent for soil and water. And the motion was to reduce that from the extra funds for advertising that you had put in the commissioner's line item. So that, I've moved that into their rental. And didn't have anything else other than to go through and do the minor corrections on payroll and those kinds of things. And there was a list, very few had adjusted, but they will be in the second copy that you have for tonight's totals. And again, they were minimal. We're still under our 18,425 that we had started with. There was also adjustments that were made to workman's comp and liability and insurance amounts. Those again are the small amounts that there was $7,791 in a couple of funds. It was reduced down to the 7,434, I believe it was. Those amounts, again, all of those small ones are in the new total sheet that you have in front of you. We're still under the original amount that was advertised. There were extra amounts that were put in for the advertising. You need to make a decision tonight if you want to keep those small amounts in the 4 or 5 funds that they went into, or you can reduce those down. It depends on, if you want to turn in an exact or you want to keep a little bit there. Prime example is the highway budget. Again, the state usually cuts those. There was an extra $79,799 that was put in stone and gravel just for advertising purposes. So if you want to leave that small amount in there, you can. I wouldn't cut it down too much just in case we don't have the exact final numbers for workman's comp and liability. Those were figured on percentages, so if those should happen to go up or because raises were given and those amounts are based on those totals, then there would still be a little cushion there as well. The $116,708 that was put as extra in the commissioners for advertising purposes, again, you made the motion to reduce that 4,100, so the new amount there is the 112,608. So that's the flexibility that you have when you're looking at the general fund. If you want to move amounts to others tonight, or you want to leave that, or however you want to, that's the extra that is in there right now. The sheriff's was adjusted. His advertised amount was $3,250,000. It is a little bit less than that once we adjusted the payroll and the insurance and the workman's comp. If you want that to go back to the $3,250,000, we just need to increase the mill line items. That's where we put the extra funds to begin with, which was an extra $60,000 to begin with. So again, if you want to take that up I think it's $978 difference, and add it back in, you can, but again, you can't go over the 3.2 that was advertised.
So, just to bring all members up to speed on the documents that she held up, and I don't know if you have a copy in front of you, Polly.
Yeah,
So what we had done is we asked our payroll deputy to bring us up to date on all employee data, because since our budget hearings or our budget workshops in August, there's a number of employee changes that occurred. And we're talking, you know, people that may have left, new hires, longevity changes, things like that. So we brought all of that up to date as of a few days ago. And then I had gone through with Sheila and we did fund and department by department a redo or a recheck on all wage figures. So we double checked them for accuracy. We also made sure we had new totals that reflect employee data as of the other day. So each one of those has been documented or outlined in an email, and Polly's been copied on those. There was very little change overall, considering the size of the budget. You know, these type of changes could be 500 here, 800 there, plus or minus. On some of your bigger funds, it was amazingly close, so that's good. We also did find an error in the sheriff's primary budget. We had double counted the part-time cook position, so it wound up freeing up a little bit of money in that fund that we didn't have to cover. But that was eaten up a little bit by the increases in liability and workers' comp, so it's kind of a wash. But everything else checked in extremely accurately, and I feel good about those numbers. As far as workers' comp, we had agreed to do a 12.5% increase over the 22 allocated amounts. That's a bit of a guess, but that's where we wanted them. We also agreed to do a 10% increase on all property and liability insurance related line items. Again, we may not see those kind of increases, or workers' comp might be worse, liability less, but it does give us kind of a general increase to account for the unknown there. There were a couple of minor, let me see if I had a note here.
In all of those reductions that he was just talking about, or adjustments in all the funds, we actually reduced the budget so far by $41,474.
How much?
$41,474.
Good.
Is that reflected in this sheet? It is.
Oh, yes, I know what it was I needed to bring up. In the Correctional Facilities Fund, the adjustments there, oh, here it is. The adjustments there had produced payroll figure that was over the original cutoff for the 20% limitation. If you remember what the sheriff was referring to, there's a 20% limitation on what you can spend towards compensation. But I went back to the DLGF and looked at the math, and the threshold is actually about $5,000 to $6,000 higher than what we last discussed. That threshold was $178,202. So at the end of the day, the actual cost of the compensation in there was $173,100. So we actually have a little bit of an extra cushion, which is good in that particular fund. There was some debate at the last meeting whether the maintenance line item could stay there or not. If you remember, we put $150,000 in for maintenance. And from what I understand, the sheriff, the State Board of Accounts, Jim had looked it over, and although the wording is terribly unclear, it seems like we're okay to keep that maintenance line item in there. You know, again, we may not spend that amount, that's just an estimate, but that's the one thing we need to decide, you know, do we want to just keep that in there or not? And I think we should, but.
Yeah,
It's a tight budget. Again, you went up to the 3.25. which is gonna use pretty much nearly every penny that he's gonna be bringing in anyway. So to reduce something out of a line item that you know is used repeatedly, I would say to leave what is in there, and again, I believe Jim reviewed too, and the numbers do meet the percentages that are set.
Good, I agree, I think it should be left in there.
Well, our last action kind of left it there, so I don't necessarily
don't
need
need
a
to
vote.
do-
But I think if the expectation is to keep it as is, then that budget, Sheila, I had 323,100 for the total on that one.
So you're saying doesn't need to be a vote?
I don't think so, no.
Okay, so what about the commissioner's budget money? Do we want to keep it where it's at, or do we want to?
I would like to move it.
Madam Chair, I'd like to make a motion in regards to that amount of money. It should be $112,608. I make a motion that we move that out of other services under the commissioner's budget and put it in the council budget and earmark it for elected official raises. Now, we can decide that next meeting, but that's where I'd like to take that $112,608 and put it.
I would like to see it, well, I guess there needs to be a second on that first. But
I'll second it for discussion.
So I would like to see us take anything that we advertise, because it's not real money, and reduce it out of the budget, except for highway. I think we should keep highway the way it is because of the nature of the state and their cuts. But as far as the general, the EMS, some of those funds where we did put in a cushion, you gotta remember that that's not really new money or additional funds that we didn't have before. That's just, from an accounting standpoint, necessary for advertisement. So I wouldn't rely on it or utilize that money for any purpose.
But if they come back and want us to cut, I mean, that would be a place that we would have, I mean, we would be able to cut it
It's
from
a
though.
buffer.
True, but you're gonna cut it no matter what, the bottom line is still the same. So if you left it there, then their cut's gonna be bigger. So the net result's not gonna be any different, but in the past, we've always submitted, the actual amounts and not kept the cushions in there. So that's my preference.
My opinion is, I don't have a real opposition to what Nick or you are saying. I think that we should probably, what I would vote for is to move it to the council and hold, and then if we want to debate and have a discussion on priorities for it, then I would be open to that in the future.
Yeah, maybe we should at least move it and have that more of like an open-ended,
My question is, do we have to earmark it tonight? Do we just move it and still have the option to give it to the elected officials at another meeting? Or do we have to earmark it tonight for raises for the elected officials?
Sheila?
It has to be voted on for raises. A specific amount you can take, if you want that whole 112,000, you have to divide that by the amount of elected officials that it goes to. But you have to do it. Once they approve the budgets, you can't change or give next year. You can't come back and do an additional appropriation in January. It has to be submitted that way as an amount.
I believe there's 16 elected officials that would affect.
Yeah, the coroner, the 5 courthouse, 3 commissioners, and 7 council. Because the surveyor had already received a raise in the
And
regular.
coroner did receive a little bit mixed, but.
Yeah, my opinion is, I'm not ready for, that kind of move this evening, so if that means me voting against or us not doing it, tonight, then I'm not on board. You guys can move forward if you like.
Your last possible opportunity is when the 1782 notice comes back. You have 10 days to make your adjustments and accept what the state sends. If they don't cut a whole lot and you wanna go ahead and transfer funds and move things to do that, but that is your last possible option to do anything for elected officials. We don't have a clue when that will be done. I am expecting it in a few weeks after we submit this. I have 5 days to turn in whatever you guys do tonight. When that 1782 comes back, again, we have 10 days. It goes to everybody. If you wanna make those adjustments and still consider doing it, that is when you have to. If not, then you cannot give them any raises in 2023. Your only other options then would be bonuses. And
But we've gotta see if this thing's gonna fly first.
right.
I myself, I mean, I don't need a raise, but I'm concerned about the others that do. I mean, you know, we've got auditor, I mean, Sheila works 7 days a week, about 24/7, I think. And the treasurer and all, you know, recorder, I mean, the clerk, I would like to see raises for them, but that's where I'm at.
Well, and here's the thing, even if we earmark this and move it, if there's 10 people that you don't wanna give a raise to and the vote carries, then it could be the commissioners and the council that will not get a raise. But I definitely, would like to see our 5 elected officials in the courthouse. I mean, some of the pressure that's on them.
Yeah.
And I'm talking about, I know what some of these people out in these workforce are making. And I know it's tough and inflation's there, but I believe our 5 main elected officials in the courthouse are underpaid. I really do for the stress that's on top of them and all that they need to accomplish, I believe they're underpaid.
So we come up with a specific amount that,
Well, we would move I guess at this time, Sheila, would we just have to move that 112,608 into the council and earmark it for raises for elected officials?
It needs to be earmarked somewhere.
Right.
And it's probably better in the council at that point if that's the intent for it. If the state says, no, we're cutting the budget and you need to cut it out of there, then it's one clean amount to cut out of there because it's combined in another line item in other services and charges in the commissioner's fund. And so we have to leave the original 120,000 that was in that commissioner's fund, if you move that 112 out.
Do we have any more questions on this?
Madam President, I'm not trying to be a horse's rear in here, but I'm not voting for myself a raise. That's not happening.
No, I know, and I
And
agree, but I think this is
If
just,
you guys wanna word it to where it leaves out the council and commissioners and we move it and earmark it, fine. I do think personally that we need to see if it flies and then possibly come back and earmark it. But if that doesn't work, but I'm not gonna vote for myself.
no, I agree, I totally agree. I'm worried, not worried, but I'm concerned about our full-time.
I believe, Madam Chair, this is our first step towards what we would want to accomplish. If the state sends us some bad news and says you guys have got to cut your budget, then we'll have to look at that at that time. And even down the road, if this board does not want to give the council and commissioner raises, I understand that as well. But I really do, like I said, I'm really concerned about our elected officials in the courthouse. But I believe passing this tonight is our first step, regardless of what we do later.
I am not gonna be against moving it to the council's budget. I think that's a first step. But I'm not really comfortable committing to the further step at this point without doing an analysis or an understanding of the cost and all that. I think that in the broader discussion, you could take that 100 and whatever thousand and considering some of the increases we've done already in other areas and kind of essentially those have been kind of off the list now because they wouldn't be affected anymore. What's virtually left would be your remaining individuals at the courthouse, including your elected officials. And I would rather see what that 120 can do for that group as a whole, rather than just carving out elected officials, And I'd like to see some options with that we can have some time to consider. We do have time to do that. But I think that tonight, I wouldn't go any further than just moving the money to the council's budget, in my opinion,
So, but we do have to, we can't just like move it from the commissioners to the council and have it there. We have to earmark it for something, right? Is that right, Sheila?
You can just put it in
You just
the
put it
line
in there,
items,
you
just
don't
like we
have to
put it
say
under.
raises, you just move it there.
Right.
Yeah, you can make that
So-
decision before the end of the year, as long as you make a motion and have the appropriate funding in place in '23 for raises. And I'm using this as an example, elected officials, okay? Or whether that's for council, not council, commissioners, or whatever. As long as that decision is made prior to the start of the new year, that part's allowable.
Okay.
And the money, but again, I do have concerns about the money. It's not really real money, so we need to be very careful with that. And I think a little bit more time to digest through that and analyze it would probably be better.
Yeah, I'm certainly not opposed to the discussion either. If we wanna take the first step.
Madam Chair, if there's a problem in how I worded it, if you want to withdraw your second, I will change my motion.
Okay, I can withdraw.
I want to change my motion to remove it. And then, like you said, Anton, you say we do not have to earmark it. We move it, and then we look at this at a later date.
I'll second that.
Okay, second by Andy.
Okay.
Are we ready?
Okay, so the exact would be, you're moving it from the Commissioners Fund 1,068, line item 30100, in the amount of $112,680
$680.
to the council's budget.
0061.
And then we'll add a line item that is we'll just add one that says other services and charges so that
There
it
is one,
matches.
yeah.
So we'll make that in again to the council's line item in line 30100, other services and charges. Again, in the amount of $112,680.
Is it $80 or $8?
80.
80,
Oh, okay.
Hang on, let me, I'm sorry, 608.
okay, that's what I had written.
608.
And what line again was that advertised in the commissioner's budget again?
1,068, 30100.
30100, okay, yeah, same line item, different,
Right.
okay.
I call for the vote.
All right, all those in favor? Motion carried.
Thank you.
Okay, would this be a good time for Mr. Scott to do his, Sheila?
If you're, yeah, because you pretty much have
Well,
gone.
we almost, there's a couple of small items, could we just go ahead and knock them out? And then
Okay.
that way we can
I
focus.
need to change, again, we made the specifics, we can go in and change those, your bottom lines are the same. I need to go back to the sheriff's department. Because you guys moved on and we hadn't changed those.
Yeah, that's where I need to go back to here, and, the line I was looking at is the police retirement. Just wanna make sure we're on the same page with that. We are really just guessing on that number, okay? It's currently at $350,291, but that is assuming that we had an approximate $60,000 increase due to the wage adjustments that were done. And we're gonna apply $15,000 in an offset from the tax warrant and civil processing fees revenue. So that's how we came up with that net figure of 350,291. Is that still okay?
Sounds good to me.
And let's see if there is anything.
What were we doing with the maintenance?
We're gonna keep that in that correctional facilities
Okay,
fund.
it's not going in there. I had 3,186,594.
Mm-hmm, that's what I've got,
Okay.
yeah.
And
And then we advertised an EMS, and we probably don't need that there, right? Shall we look at that real quick? Was that also other services line item,
for,
EMS? Did we have anything there extra?
you have, where you have the loan payment that is getting ready to be done, so do you wanna reduce
Yeah,
that?
I'm talking about the regular budget. Did we advertise add anything to that one?
No,
Okay, so what do you have on that budget?
2,157,670.
Mine's close.
We changed the wages earlier and the insurances.
Yeah, I've got those in here, but, what do you have for, the insurance numbers?
Liability, I have 50,000.
55.
Okay.
I for that one. Group insurance?
It is not letting me change anything. Okay, I'll make a note. It's not. Okay, so 55,000 in EMS for insurance.
Right,
So
group
that's the
insurance.
5,000.
That
Okay.
would make it pretty darn close, but we can confirm those other numbers.
Okay,
So lit edit, there's not a lot in lit edit, but there's some big things in there. The health insurance line item, we came up with 358,698, which is actually less than the previous because of configuration of employees and that kind of thing. There was a loan payment in there for the REMC and EDC thing. Do we need to go ahead and zero that? What was the final determination? Jim, you had researched that. It was the last payment, but it maybe wasn't even needed. Is that correct?
Well, I've been first kind of told Paul here, I've had to sign this for 2 days. So
Okay.
it might sound horrible and it's probably annoying. But there's 8 payments left in that month. Historically, you as a council have paid that year after year after year. There is cash balances in redevelopment general and redevelopment capital that would cover that 84,000. So it is possible for redevelopment to make that. Speaking, I guess, I'm not advocating, but I think the position, to be fair, from redevelopment, I think they are hoping that the council would just pay that the last 8 months and then end it out. But in any case, it's a 0% interest and it will run out in August, so there's only 8 payments. By memory, I believe it's 10,417 per payment. Then that's kind of where we're at. I think that they could, but I do, to be fair to them, I think they are asking that you would just go ahead and figure it out.
Okay, so you're mentioning, what do we want to do with that?
That's a good question.
Well, do they have the funds to pay it?
Yeah, because they had
They have a
that.
sizable cash balance. Jim, you were referring to cash, and that's money that's sitting in
Sure.
some kind of a redevelopment related?
They have 2 funds in the 40 series. Hang on just 1 second, please.
you have a copy of the monthly report
Yes.
in front of you.
So they have Fund 4933, so as of October 26th, they have $362,223 in 4933. And in 4935, they have $527,454. That's actual cash.
Okay. And so that, because again, this was done 10 years ago. So they have not actually settled up with REMC. That final step has not occurred yet. We have been contributing essentially into these funds
Correct.
through this, and that money's just sitting there, but they would need to take that money and give it back to REMC.
Yeah, the money has to be paid no matter what, okay? So again, talking in general range, $84,000, $87,000. Under no circumstance can that money not be repaid. Again, this is something the council's done out of lit edit, year after year, but if it's not, then I think redevelopment would have to go and, obviously meet and make a decision of which fund they would pay it out of.
And what was the balance due to REMC?
As far as the loan,
Yeah.
there's 8 payments left.
No, I mean, as far as, them paying REMC,
That
the
is
final,
what they owe, is the,
They owe $83,336.
okay.
so I think what happened from, correct me if I'm wrong, Jim, is they took out this loan and it was 0% interest, and they had the money sitting there, and it was supposed to go for whatever project, and they didn't do anything with it, but Lit Edit's been paying the loan.
Right.
So the principal of the loan's just been sitting and we've been,
So where has the principal of the loan been sitting?
in those,
In those two funds that you
Okay,
just read.
okay, so I think there's some confusion, because the last question I asked, that's the opposite of what, so my question is what is the amount that they owe back to REMC? What's outstanding to them? Is it the $1 million, or is it 800,000?
it's the 80,
It's 83,000.
Well, it can't be the 83 if they're sitting on 800,000 in these funds.
yeah, this has been going, this is, okay.
See where I'm going with that?
Well, I understand, like I forget, I don't know what the initial loan was it 800,000?
It was $1 million.
Or $1 million? And then, they took that out, it's been sitting there in the bank, and then it's been paid.
They owe 84,000 left.
Yeah, they've been paid out of
sitting
the
on
edit.
So, but they're sitting on 800 and some thousand in these funds, so you can't create money out of nothing, so my question is how did they get 800,000 sitting in these funds? How did that happen if they paid the loan already back to
Yeah, but they-
REMC?
Those funds didn't pay it back. Lit Edit's been paying it back, we've been paying it back.
Okay,
So it'd be like me going to the bank, and taking out a loan for $100,000, and I don't spend that $100,000. It's been sitting in my bank account. Meanwhile, you come in and say, I'm gonna pay that payment for you.
got it,
And I got
okay.
the money.
Okay, so they benefited essentially, they banked the money
Mhm.
because of that.
Yeah.
Okay. So what are their plans for the money then? We don't know.
Well, it sounds like,
It seems like they've got a lot there.
I want to be fair to our friends at
Right.
redevelopment, but if they've not spent it yet and the money's there, then clearly,
I feel like they should make that payment.
One thing
I'm
that-
sorry to interrupt you.
no, you're fine, you're
The
fine.
question that I asked, who has the right to spend it?
Well, the redevelopment commission,
Okay. The commission itself is not tied to the council, physical body, in any way, is that right?
not anymore.
Okay. So we paid these payments, the taxpayers did. And it's $800,000 in plus. And yet, it doesn't belong to the taxpayer?
It belongs to redevelopment. And that's what I'm saying, they benefited, from this.
Well, and they can use that to, thinking through the whole redevelopment, they could use it as a match for a grant or a sewer project, a road. That money is probably pretty flexible in terms of what it can be used for.
I will just say this because I sit on the board
Hmm.
and it just feels like we spin our wheels. I mean, there's a
So there
lot
really
of
hadn't been
talk
any
and really
direction.
no action.
I'm gonna make a motion that we, notify redevelopment that the remaining 8 payments would be paid by the redevelopment commission.
Put in the motion,
Yes, sir.
Yeah, he just did.
I second that.
Any other questions? All those in favor? Motion carried.
Okay, so we're gonna zero that line item out then, right, Sheila? Okay. Now, Economic Development had a request for additional funds for normal operations. Did we wanna entertain that or change that, or do we wanna leave that the way it's at?
I'm satisfied with leaving it the way it is.
It looks like it was last at 65,000,
Mm-hmm.
so keep it at 65,
Yeah, I wouldn't wanna go any more than that.
okay?
They had asked for an additional 10,000 on top of that, had they not?
Correct.
Okay. As far as the 65, it had already been put in the budget.
Correct.
The additional 10, we said no to, and so I still stand saying no to the 10.
Okay. So that just leaves our grant match for community crossings, that's at 333,000, we're not gonna touch that. So I come up with $757,031 for the total in that budget. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. And we had advertised, and I think we should reduce down to that total without the advertisement in that fund. Is there any consensus on that?
Yeah, that sounds,
Do we need to put it to a vote?
You had increased that one, the $195,868. That's what's sitting in that other
Okay.
services advertised amount. So if you want to reduce that, that was just for the advertising, and that is the line item that would get zeroed out.
I prefer we zero it out, to be honest.
that sounds good to me.
Make that
Agree.
motion,
I'll make that in the motion, yeah.
I second.
Motion made by Anton, seconded by Nick. All those in favor? Motion carried. Is there anything else that we need to clean up?
There might be, let's see here. So of our advertised funds, we had lit edit, which we took care of, the general fund, which we took care of. I thought there was one other one we
Are you
had
talking
for
the
advertising.
advertisement? You had the highway at the $79,799.
Got it, and we're gonna keep that the way it is, right, anticipating a cut from the state maybe?
We're gonna
Okay.
discuss that a little bit
All right,
more.
and then was there any others?
And then there was the mills in the sheriff's department. And we ended up having to reduce things because it went over the $3,250,000 that was advertised.
So let's look at that real
I
quick.
mean, we can add it back in and make it come back up to that 3 million.
I would prefer to cut that out. So we had, the baseline meals was 90,000, that's what we last left it at, short of the advertisement. So just a personal opinion, I'd like to keep that at the 90 and not have that added in there, if that's a consensus
And the
of the council.
90,000 is what is in there in front of you in your sheets that you have also, because again, we had to make adjustments to stay under, again, we were at the 3,186,000 and we had
And we
to.
match now, so,
Okay,
so we don't need any action if that's already been removed.
Okay.
Okay, so as long as we've cleared through all the advertisements short of highway, then I didn't have any other follow-up items.
okay.
So,
Okay. Sean, would you like to make your,
Appreciate your patience.
I was a Du Bois candidate today, and I had to be on the third floor, so I'll do second floor any day. So will that switch over automatically?
Madam Chair, Would you introduce us, who is this company?
This WTH,
WTH, yes, correct.
Okay.
And they're the ones that-
using their services.
Yes.
right, yes.
Thank you, sir.
Did it come up? No, that one's not mine. Mine's not near that clean. Does it need to be plugged into the different? There's two of them in the front here.
I thought it was,
Try the bottom one.
try the other one. I'm not the technical guy.
Okay.
No, on this particular one, Beth, Shelley, Kathleen. Suzanne's not here, she's usually the other one running
Can it be
stuff.
brought up on Sheila's computer, since it is off the website, or since we're already seeing her computer up there, would there be a way to?
Can he plug into the,
Where's it at?
it's down here. This is where we usually put our flash drives, I'm assuming that's just it comes in and loads up.
Well, I can kind of just, basically,
Yeah.
if you have questions, and I can kind of tell you a little bit about what we have. I'm Sean Scott, GIS consultant at WTH Technology. We do your GIS work here for the county. And I was reached out to in regards to a conference that I was at last week about some of the different layers that we have and that we help maintain with the county. And one of those is roads, certified roads, and what's called PASER, which is your condition of the different of each one of the roads, segment by segment. And so we have those loaded up with the highway department, and those roads are basically what you have approved here at the county and have submitted to the state, to NDOT, as what is your roads. They approve them, and when they approve them, then they send them back and make them available in a digital format that we're able to put onto the map.
So NDOT's kind of an intermediary?
So, yeah,
in that process?
NDOT's,
Okay.
yeah, basically, it's almost like you're submitting a draft of a letter to NDOT, and somebody there's typing it and sending it out, and saying, this is what you said it was, and this is what it is, and that's what it is. So one of the things that we kind of do or help highway departments with and city municipals is kind of a visual way of making sure that what you've submitted to the state is what you have on the ground. And so what we're able to do is we turn, and they're layers, and so we just turn one on over the other, and it's kind of like a transparency, like you used to show a transparency up on the wall. And the other thing about the certified road layers is that it tells everything about that road, the length of it, the width of it, so the PASER ratings have, everything, the condition. And so I reached out to the state, I believe Monday, something like that, and said, hey, can I get the most recent? And so they sent me what they had. I loaded it in, and I believe that just by doing a simple, and this is not certified or anything like that, but a simple export of that into an Excel spreadsheet, which I think I emailed to you. I don't know if she shared with you or not. And just the old simple sum, you just take the link, went down to the bottom, and I think it showed 619 miles.
Yeah,
and some
that's what
change.
mine has.
Yeah, something like that. The PASER rating, I can't do like that because I can't just grab them all and sum it and see what it says at the end. And the reason is because it's broke up into segments. So PASER ratings you take 2nd Street and it's block by block. So it's intersection by intersection. And so it's a little bit more difficult to just do that real quick. You know, it's there, it can be done, it's just, but I looked through, and when I turned on the certified roads, you guys have a beautiful map. And I didn't see anything. What I do is I usually color code them. I'll kind of show it right here. And what I'll do is I'll make a contrasting color. And so I have one, you know, what state certified what you're reporting, and then the contrasting color I'll put underneath. And I only seen like one little place, and I'll turn this off, and I can just maybe ask. So the dark blue ones there are what is state certified, and then underneath it I have a green color, and I really don't see any to jump out. And so like I said, I know that we've been working with the county a lot over the past several years in the highway department, and some training over there, and being able to keep these and make sure that they're what you got. Which then brought into another change happens. So I'm also with the town of Marengo, and because of my GIS experience, they've asked me to help them with their community crossing grant. And one, keep an asset management and maintaining the roads and what we have and everything at. So by doing that, I found at my town that we had several roads that were not reported. There were roads that were built in a period of time that, you know, in the 70s when people didn't report to the state, it wasn't a thing, you didn't care, you just, you know, throw a road up there. Now when you want to pave that road, it has to be in your asset plan. If it's not in your asset management, it doesn't exist. And what happened was we went to pave a road into our industrial park, and everything was all hunky-dory until they actually came and said, oh, which road? This road's not even on your asset management. So that's one thing, is that, you know, you have this. If you do have a plan of certain roads that you're going to work on, you need to make sure that they're on your asset management. Make sure that the lengths of your roads, when there's an annexation, that's another thing that we run into, is if a town annexes, hypothetically that means the county loses because the town's gaining. And so sometimes you got to make sure that that's done if a town does annexation. Sometimes I know I've seen counties and towns trade stuff, you know, not on paper. It's like, we'll go ahead and maintain this one, you know, you come around this direction, we'll come around on that side, whatever. So basically it's just, you know, it's something on paper. But if you're going to be doing a blacktop or any type of project like that, it has to be in your asset inventory, your asset management plan. The other thing that I run across, and I don't know, there was some discussion, we talked about funds not being received this year that you had last year. And again, I'm on a different hat now. So when I talked to our consultant, Tara Damian with Clark Dietz, we had put in 2 applications, and our first application was declined. And the reason was it had something to do with funding through the state, and it was a timing thing, and everybody got it. And so they just automatically awarded the second one, whatever that one was. The bad part was we had planned ours that we're gonna fix this road to get to this road, and then there's like, well, you can't fix this road, and then everybody's looking at us going, you guys are fools. You got the worst road coming into town going to a nice blacktop road. Oops. But now that's on our 2023 plan. So I just want to provide to you any assistance that we can with WTH, making sure that you do have the appropriate amounts of roads inventoried, turned in, that you're getting an accurate amount of money from the state. And that's something that, like I said, you pay consultant fees and service fees for us. We do that 365 days a year, sort of. Reach out to us. And like I said, we'll either come up here in person, we'll train on site, we work back and forth. Like I said, I enjoy coming here, and I enjoy working with the EMS and the Sheriff Department and Highway Department, and then here in the courthouse, we've had some great work in here. So, any other questions?
Yeah, are you saying then that this is a possible part of your plan that we're already paying for, that we can use?
Yes, you have, it's already there, it comes from the state. You submitted it to the state at some point. And that's there, I've submitted, to you what the state is saying you have.
So could we have more mileage of road?
You could,
Okay,
yeah, absolutely.
so this shows 641.
619 and some
619.
change, yeah. There was a lot of things, so there's a difference between like 911 roads and certified roads. Certified roads are the ones that the county's taking care of. That's the ones you say, I own this. I seen a lot of, there were some places on here that look like camps, campgrounds maybe, some parks. It was like on the northeast side of the county, around a lake or something like that. These are roads, they have names, they have addresses, they have 911 addresses, but they're essentially private. So they're not maintained by the county. I don't know your situation here, but in my county, in Crawford County, we have a lot of places that were developed privately and then years later were turned over to the county. But then it's the responsibility of the county to make sure that the state, that they claim those roads.
So what's the process, like if there is a road that the county is starting to maintain and they need to have that certified with the state? What's the process?
I think I sent you a copy of it's a one-page form that says, this is the name of the road, here's how long it is. It may be an adjustment one way or another. Maybe a road that was 1 mile long, but now you've abandoned the last 3/4 of a mile, or the last quarter of a mile because, farmer doesn't, you used to turn a bus around there, now you don't. I see that happen a lot. And then sometimes you may be extending a road to a new subdivision or something like that. So what the county has to do, the highway department, is submit that form. It's a simple form to the Department of Transportation, adding that. Now, it's like taxes. It won't take effect until next year to be on your asset management,
But like for a road, it's a fairly simple process. So you take the measurements off of your
You can.
GIS?
Yeah, you can. You can do it off of the GIS. You can actually go out there if you wanted to with a wheel, and you're gonna get the same thing.
Okay, so I see where all this is kind of going down. Bob, I see you kind of look over at the highway there a minute ago. There's one big question I've got, and that's, does it take hiring a full-time person to do this type of job?
We already have it.
We already have it.
And it's already being
You could
done.
have, I'm not speaking for.
I'm here just trying to figure it all out, so.
We got a gentleman.
What we've found is what we have state certified and what we take care of is way off scale. For example, East Phillips Road on GIS shows it as the driveway next to it, not the actual road on what we have on our maps.
Kingfisher Lane, everywhere you look on the map, it's off. And
Off on the GIS
the
map
wrong
or?
roads are mapped out.
And then when we did
Kingfisher
the
is
initial grant for the
Community crossings, yeah.
Concord Road is one road, but it's actually got 4 state
Okay,
certifications.
so here's my question. If I asked that question, he said, we're already paying for it, is there a quick way for?
Let me correct that. You're paying service for us.
Right, but
We get it from the state and we just help you interpret it.
I'm just trying to figure out, building up to the fix, how does all that get rectified?
It's not, from what we've researched, it's not just a simple form that you put to and from. You have to have documentation the county has accepted from point A to B or A to B.
Yes, absolutely.
So you have to turn in more information. You have to go to meetings and you publicize more than likely. I'm not sure the exact protocol that you guys would have to do. So it will be very time consuming. We've tried looking into it. We came down to the courthouse to look through records to see if that was of any help. and they're not detailed enough. It just says Denmark Road, it doesn't give a A to B.
Yeah, she's correct. If you ever are adding a road that's not in your inventory, then that has to be through the commissioners of, that it's got a name and this is what it is and, and all that stuff.
The
They approve
sustainability
it.
wise, at some point, you will get it.
Yeah.
Caught up, yeah.
And so what's a little unknown at this point, right, is how much is unaccounted for. Is that a fair thing to
Every
say?
time we get onto the map to look at something, we find another mistake, where it's not certified of what we take care of. Or say that at some point the commissioner said, we're not gonna take care of this section of road anymore, but we're still doing it because we can't find it in the minutes from the meetings to where it was actually dropped. So we're actually taking care of roads that we've taken care of this whole time, that according to our GIS says we don't do anymore.
So you mentioned Kingfisher, and I know where that's at, Lafayette Township. Can we look at that one specifically?
Yeah, I'm trying to. I was sitting there trying to pull it up.
I just I want a concrete example of what's,
Right.
of something that's wrong. Because I think that with any problem, if you're really gonna find a solution, a proper solution, you need to know what the problem is first. And if we can understand that a little better, it might help in figuring out what the right solution actually is to how much resources to put towards that. It may be an additional position, it may not be, it may be a consultant, it might be a third party you hire out to for a certain cost. But until you really know what the problem is and how many of them there are, it's really tough to just blindly decide, let's do this, or let's throw money at this, or hire this, or whatever. It's a bit tough. So maybe the Kingfisher would be a good example to see kind of like what's wrong with it, because that is a county road, last I understood,
Well, and like
but.
East Phillips off of Shepherd Patrick.
Hmm.
The actual road isn't marked on the map, it is a driveway
That we're certified for.
that we're certified for, not.
And that's the Spencer Phillips Road, not the Gosford Phillips Road,
Yes,
right?
one of
Okay, isn't that crazy? And it used to connect many, many years back, but, okay.
Okay, you said, what was it called?
It's Kingfisher, and it's all one word. And couldn't we have individuals that are familiar with their areas look at the map and see where there's, like he mentioned, current road inventory is identified. We know what's accounted for now. But if people that are familiar, if you have someone that's a Coal City person or a Patricksburg person, and they know the area and the roads, could we not enlist the help of some individuals? I mean, I'm even willing to help in Washington Township to determine, well, now, wait a minute, why is that not highlighted in here? That road goes from point A to point B, it's got a green road sign. We should be able to identify those problems ourselves, or at least help take a step in that direction. Is that a part of the process that could be valuable?
It could be if we could find the people that would like to volunteer their time
Okay.
there to assist, yeah.
So here's Kingfisher Road, second.
Did you find it? Yeah.
Kingfisher Road, that goes back and dead ends of the house.
Yeah, but we actually maintain the drive to the right.
Right, it splits.
So that's the blue one, this is the certified.
So it's certified all the way up to, and I
To
know
a
that
wooded-
gentleman,
a wooded
it goes
lot.
up what he thinks is his driveway. So that's kind of interesting, but,
That's how the state is looking at it.
it goes up and it
That's what
goes
they're
up.
saying, that it goes to that woods.
But if it's not supposed to go to the woods and it's
I
supposed
see
to go,
what you're looking
yeah,
at.
it's supposed to go the other direction, that's a problem that would need to be fixed. Is that right?
These maps and roads, yes, come from to begin with. Who did these
It had to
original
start somewhere.
layers? Yeah.
Someone had to have entered the data.
my thing is, I mean, it might take a while to get, but once you get updated, you're gonna get caught up.
Because you would, every commissioners meeting, if there was a road added or subdivision or whatever,
You would add.
then that would be,
Right.
need to be added, between the highway
And
and.
you're rarely gonna take away.
Right.
So you're always gonna, if you're missing something, you're going to then add it and be done with it.
This one to the end. Yeah, so what she's suggesting is that where you're talking about the driveway?
Yeah.
They're going that way, that it's actually supposed to continue out here to the end of that. If that changes, the only, you would, sometimes have you ever sent one in where you've just drawn it?
We have not done that yet, because we've been trying to research on how to do this.
Okay. And reach out to us, and, please, we will more than happy to help you.
Well, that was one of my questions.
Yeah.
Is there training available?
Yeah,
We
Yeah.
had somebody come out, or I forget his name.
it's very, I think Trevor and Kat, myself, and we couple of them. It's difficult to do when you don't do it every day. And this is something they do once a year, that they have to do the state certification. And so, we try to offer, but it's not an easy thing for them to maintain along with all the rest of the stuff that they do. And changing roads is not, that's kind of a whole different thing. This is like using Excel for her. She uses it every day. You use it every now and then, you can't do the stuff that she can do. But it's the same thing. I use it a lot, so I can do it. Somebody that's not using as much. And then we have some highway departments that have people that's what they do. But you have the tool, and you have us to help. And so it's just, whatever. On this part right here is if we move that to the end here, like where it's, instead of going to that guy's driveway, it's supposed to go here to the end of this one. If it's the same amount of miles, it's the same amount of miles. You're just dragging.
But you're correct.
Okay,
Right.
so take me through that. Tomorrow, Rachel calls you up and says, hey, remember that road we talked about last night?
Yeah.
Can it be done just like that?
We can help her move it and submit it to the state, but it won't be till next year.
Right,
Yeah.
but what I'm saying is the legwork can be,
Yeah.
And some of the issues we found, and it's not the GIS, it's been from years ago, to where the commissioners have closed the road. They did not vacate it, they closed it.
Yeah. And that's what I
Put a gate up.
that's what I
It was
read
in
into.
the minutes that they told to put a gate up. Well, when they did that, they did not vacate that road, so that road is still supposed to be maintained and open.
Yeah, still on
But
the
we're not
inventory.
getting money for it,
Ah,
so there's actual extra miles there that wasn't properly vacated, they just closed it.
And then sometimes you get into somebody that finds that research and says, I need you to come out here and bring some gravel.
open it up. That's true.
I've been there before.
Adopted things, but nothing was ever done with the state
Submitted to the
to
state.
submit it, to get it certified, so
But we've been
we've got some places that we do and have for years, but there's no money for it.
So is Drescher Road one of those? That used to go through.
Yes, but
Okay, I was just curious. I'm
but what it is,
thinking,
like you said,
yeah.
landowners are doing the research and saying, hey, this was never actually vacated, it was just closed, somebody's bought that property now. And we need to open it back up, but we're not getting the money for that section of road.
So Drescher Road, yeah, that's certified, it's on
So
there.
Drescher Road is certified
Yeah.
north of
Yeah.
Hayden Road.
What about south?
South is blue,
Okay.
It's all,
but north is also blue, but north dead ends at
Yeah.
the creek,
Yes.
right?
it's,
Goes all the way up to,
0.6 miles.
yeah.
Who did these original layers when WTH was brought into the
State.
town?
So typically the state, they're the ones that have everything to begin with, and so those would have been brought in from the state. It's just like parcel lines. Somewhere they probably had an AutoCAD or somebody drew all those out. And then over 10 years of time, things have been modified, just like the parcel information. That's what we always say, it's a representation, it's not the gospel. That's what surveyors are for. We just kind of are there to show what they've submitted as being a visual. And then, the difference between going out there and actually running a wheel on it versus, drawing a line, that's two different things. So.
Sean?
Yes, sir. I'm sorry, I'm deaf. So I hear something, but if I'm not looking at it.
Can your services to upgrade, be contracted?
Do what, I'm sorry?
Can your services to upgrade and certify our roads, can we contract with you to do such?
Yeah, I can, but, like I said, first, I'd like to train, help you got, what you have.
Okay.
But
At no
if it
cost.
comes into a situation, and we do that, and for an example, we have counties where an auditor may resign and they do the parcel splits here in-house, and so they ask us to do the parcels until they can get somebody trained and do that. We have people who can look at it probably quicker, like I said, because she's got so much going on. They can probably look at it pretty quick, that have an eye for that.
Sounds like you got a valuable service. I appreciate you coming tonight.
How much would, if we contracted someone to do that, how much would?
About $1 million.
Yeah, make that to you.
Yeah, to me, yeah, right there. That address.
Yeah.
No, and like I said, you pay for a service, and, and the service is to make you have a good product, You have a web GIS, and, that, I know you've got people looking at that all the day, all the time. And so, we want to make sure it's an accurate representation of what you have.
Madam Chair, I appreciate you having this young man come. I would like to simply say that I'd like to move on this evening.
Absolutely, no, and like I said, I apologize to the highway department for not, us not being able to help you, but like I said, sometimes there's not a bat signal that goes up, and I'll try to make sure that you've got my contact, because I got a friend in Ellisville I like to see every now and then. He takes me out to dinner when I come see him, so I really like to see him.
We had somebody come out this year and they put the state certified on our
Did they? Good.
computers, and that's what we run off, but
Yeah.
before that, we were just running off
Yeah.
roads.
And the PASER rating too, that's where, and that's a difficult one. And like I said, I had to do this with my town with the community crossing grant this year. And it's not easy. It's not, to get $1 million, they'll make you bark like a dog.
Yeah, jump through a lot of hoops.
But it's possible, so.
Madam Chair, do we need a motion for the adopt the 2023 budget, so it can be submitted to the state?
I think we're already good, aren't we?
I didn't necessarily have any other adjustments to make. But so are we leaving highway the way it is then, with the advertisement that she's added in, the current breakdown of positions and the amounts of pay? Because I've got a total. Is that something you can double check?
The total, because it wouldn't let me change their stuff in there, so, I can bring up just the highway, but
Yeah,
I
maybe
can't
you
bring up
can.
any.
So it's locking up on you, or?
It won't let me change.
Or
I'm
read
here in
only?
the amount, so it's a read only. And we're looking for the highway. It's part of the
So
agenda.
is the question on highway about whether or not the additional position is needed, that we kick the can down the road till January on?
You want to address that tonight, Andy?
Only if it has to be. I don't know if it needs to be for the budget or not. And,
Sheila redid, so,
well, I'll let
if
you.
we were gonna,
We can make adjustments. Again, it won't.
I guess my question is if we need to put in a full-time position for that, or once they get that caught up. Is it, I mean, would it have been, I feel like it would have been better being a temporary.
Madam Chair, was that not a position that was a truck driver's position? And all we did was change the verbiage on it and
I
made
think
it
so.
a different line item? Is it a position that still needs the truck driver? We would go back to that? Is it already in the, it's still in the budget?
It's still in the budget as a truck driver, isn't it?
It's in the budget as a truck driver?
No,
We changed it.
Now, our last configuration, includes all changes approved as of our hearings. And that included the redo that the highway department presented. They had requested a third position in the office. They also vacated a couple of positions. I think you added 2 operators in the mix, an extra laborer. There was also some increases in base pay for pretty much each of the positions. And I think that the seasonal have been adjusted to like 1,000 hours for part-time truck drivers and 1,000 hours for part-time laborers, if I'm not mistaken. So that's kind of.
I think the question is, how do we address this or do we address it? I think the gentleman gave us a pretty good presentation of what he could do for us. We have to weigh that, whether or not we would want to go ahead and maintain that full-time position for that job.
we added that 79, yeah.
I'm certainly, after what was proposed, I'm not convinced it's a have to have. And I don't know that there's not 2 or 3 different things to look at first that we could possibly do to get things where they need to be.
I agree.
What's your idea, Andy, just leave it or address it tonight?
90.
I don't know what has to be addressed and what doesn't.
Could you
Or do we
explain
address
that,
it when the budget comes back from the state?
Sheila?
When the 1782 notices come back, you can make any adjustments that you want, because whatever the state says you have X amount of dollars to work with, that's when you reach out to the department heads and elected officials and say, state, cut your budget X amount of dollars. So if they say we're cutting the highway $100,000, then they would have to figure out where they wanted to cut it from. So you can still cut a position then. You can still make adjustments clear up until you sign that 1782. So if you don't take action on it tonight, you still have one more opportunity. If you leave the figures the way that they are right now, including that position. So you can still change your mind one more time, or you leave the budget as is, that includes that administrative position.
I think if we want to give it a fair shake here, the gentleman did have some good stuff, and I'm very intrigued by that, and it's quite fascinating, actually. I'm kind of into that stuff, but I really think, like I said earlier, we need to know really what the magnitude of the problem, and there may need to be some upfront work to identify what that is, so we have a better idea of whether this is the fix, or whether we need another position or additional staffing. So I think there's nothing wrong with leaving it the way it is at the moment, but I still think that we need to complete this task. We still need to, it's open-ended at this point, and we need to narrow this down and come up with a final decision. And I think that's gonna take the commissioners to step up as well and have that discussion. And the highway department needs to reevaluate with this. And we may need to dig in a little deeper on what exactly this gentleman can provide and what the cost would be for doing that, so.
And just for the record, that position is not only for just that, it's also gonna do a lot of the bridge stuff. Because right now, bridges used to be a once-a-month thing, no problem, it is weekly now. and we kinda have to split it between 2 or 3 people with everything else we're doing to accomplish it, and that would also be on that person.
I think the most intriguing thing that I heard from the gentleman was when Nick asked him, would this be something we could pay you to do? And he said, let's train first. So, you know, if there's a way, basically what I got from that is, let's not spend any money. Let's optimize, you know, what we've got here and try to fix this thing without incurring anything. So I think that gives me a lot of confidence.
So then maybe, Andy, we don't do anything tonight, go ahead and submit that budget.
I think I'll yield to the rest of you, but I don't think, I mean, unless Bob's got something from the commissioners here on it.
Well, I mean, you know, we try and look at this position from Greg's point, it was Greg's idea stuff. That, you know, if you take a job that she's making, or whoever takes the job, 36,000, if we can get extra mileage and stuff, they maybe bring in 100,000 for the income. I mean, it justifies the job.
Well, and so does utilizing what we're already paying for and doing it for zero, if we can.
Well, who's doing it for zero?
Were you here when the guy gave his?
There? Well, I could hear part of it because he turned towards you and stuff. I'm having a little trouble hard hearing and stuff.
I
But
mean, it was asked by Nick, you know, how much it would cost to hire somebody out on a contract to get this up to where it needed to be. And the guy said basically that with training, you know, he.
training, that means you gotta train somebody. Who's he gonna train?
What'd you say, Ernie?
We already have personnel to do that.
Yeah,
How
so
long have we had this program?
I'm not
Is it
sure.
brand new?
No.
We've had it for
He came
several
in,
years.
what, I think 2019 and did a training
And
on
we
this.
They've
just
been
reached
out
out.
often, they've been out.
The state certified layer is something new to us in the highway department, we have not had that.
We did not have access to that layer before, we did not know it existed until the building department happened. Said, well, what are you looking at?
And now that we have it, that's.
So that's a step in
So
the right direction.
we have hope,
right?
we have hope.
Yeah.
We are discovering the problem.
How long have we had it?
The
I don't-
program?
How long-
Yeah,
how long-
years.
Ask him, I don't
It's
know.
been years, yeah.
WTH has been there
Years.
forever.
Here, many years.
It's been many years because it's been used by several departments, it's been used by sheriff, EMS,
So we just
Health
mishandled
building.
it. We've not bothered, get the highway department involved, get the training up, and now we're kind of fuddling over, trying to figure out how we can catch up. That like this?
That's what it sounds like to me.
All we have to do is train the locals that are already involved with it.
Yeah.
We got it, we don't have to spend any extra money. How do we get to Crossroads financing? Where does that come from, and how do we adapt ourselves to go after it, to apply for it? Was that just kind of pulled out of the sky? We got 6 roads over here that need some work.
I think that's what he's willing to help us do.
And Ernie brings that, kind of triggers a good point, and not to put you on the spot here with community crossings, but we had multiple successful community crossings grant applications for years. And then all of a sudden, whammo, problem. So is that because the state had found out about something, or there's a change of procedure that somehow we're kind of caught
The
into?
gentleman that usually looks at them said it would have been approved up to a certain point, had it made to his desk. The state had to make massive cuts because they overspent. So it was going to her desk and his desk, and they were just funneling out. Concord Road is one that was the first part of that road is still labeled as a county road, I can't remember the exact number right now. So in the verbiage.
Oh, I see. 300 East versus Concord.
Yeah.
Type of thing.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's not a clean split where it's at, so you couldn't do A to B intersections.
So it was a technical.
But then another road that we had submitted for, there was no reason why it was cut at all, other than it was just cut.
And Chris uses this. We've had it since I came there in 2009 or 2000, so it's been around a while.
So why can't we get the department heads that use this information, get them together and see how much they can share for the training? Each one of them must have somebody on board that's doing it, right? They're looking at this program, making decisions. Why can't it be shared? Bring up the highway department, bring them up to speed so they understand.
Well, I think he's willing to go out and train the highway department, but what he said just a minute ago.
Yeah.
We've had the training, we understand what it is, we just need assistance in getting the proper documentation and getting it to the commissioners to get approved, recertified, then submitted to the state so we can get it on our asset management plan to become effective for the following years.
Do you think he could be of help to you, or is that something?
He
you
has
have
what
done?
we've submitted prior, so we need somebody actually doing the groundwork to submit to the state. And then once it is, the state approves it, then it gets to him, then it goes to him and acting players, and then bounces back to us.
Well, I think we should keep it the way it is, considering the complexity of the issue. And then we can still make adjustments later on if we need to, but I really think we need to have a good dialogue with the department and the different stakeholders that are involved here. I don't think we're gonna be able to resolve anything tonight.
Right.
And I don't think we should cut off the options. I think we should leave the funding in place for the last configuration that we approved for the highway department. And then we can readdress it after we've given a fair shake on it. That's my opinion.
Well, I have a problem with that.
So the numbers we have for highway are accurate now, and they do match with what Sheila has. The total is $3,047,552. And that takes care of your adjustments on all the insurance, fully funds the last set of positions that were approved. And it does account for that additional advertising amount that Sheila had entered in for, the
Advertising.
Stone, gravel, and other aggregate for the advertising, so. And then Cume Bridge, that, there was no change to that, Road and Street. Again, the state may come back and say, we need to cut those, but, we'll just have to get to that road when we get to it. No pun intended, right?
Then are we ready to make a motion then to approve?
So do we need to make a motion that with the adjustments, or?
Yes.
Okay.
Because there's still some minor adjustments that we need to make to a couple of the funds. I need to do the lit fund and.
Yeah, so I'm gonna go ahead and make a
those
motion, we authorize the auditor to make final technical adjustments within the confines of what the council has already voted for and determined for the budgets. And then she can follow up if needed.
Okay, I second that.
Motion made by Anton, second by Nick. All those in favor? Motion carried.
And then do we need a motion then to go ahead and formally adopt all of these budgets and submit them to the state?
You making
So
that?
I'm gonna go ahead and make a motion
I'll
that
second.
we do that.
A second.
I'll second that, Nick.
Oh, well, the second
Oh, I'm
by.
You're a good man.
There's a sheet in front of Polly that needs signed and you have to mark it yea and nay on your signatures.
Okay. So,
Do we need to vote?
yeah, motion was made and seconded. All those in favor? Okay, motion carried.
And now I have 5 days to make all the adjustments that you just approved tonight and get them entered and submit them to the state. And then the next step will be when we get the 1782 notice back.
And I think Sheila said she was gonna try to do it all before midnight tonight, just to get it over with.
Yeah, we want-
Let's go some more.
So just, we just sign down right here and then
On
say your
that
name?
last page, yes.
Okay.
Did somebody call you a miracle worker?
I think she is,
Yeah, I do.
actually. She
have-
works very good, she does a great job.
I have a good staff and a lot of you that help, and Tom has put a lot of work into this, and Polly, and again, we've had such good help from DLGF this year, which I did not have this time last year, so that's really made a difference. The budgets aren't the only thing that we have, and I eventually will be in front of you asking for one of my 2 positions back that was cut, but we'll catch that one after we see what they do with the rest of the budgets. Because I cannot and will not keep working 7 days a week, just can't do it. I will send you all clean copies, pretty much. Hopefully we'll have most of them done tomorrow. And please look through them and compare them to your notes tonight. And I would like to, if possible, submit it on Monday, so we're well within our 5 days and yes, I will work on it over the weekend just because it's uninterrupted and can lay them out and go back through the original. And again, you still have one more opportunity to make changes if you need or want to.
Okay.
So is it okay that these numbers don't reflect?
Yes,
Okay, and we're supposed to do it in the boxes above.
yes.
Okay. You might need to resend.
Oh, okay.
We didn't do it.
Yep.
There you go.
Yeah.
So, we gotta put it up here now?
Yeah.
Nope.
So the, here, no one even paid attention.
I'm gonna go ahead and make a motion, we adjourn the 2023 budget adoption hearing.
I seconded.
Thank you.
I didn't either.
Now, to all the department heads sitting out here, again, as of right now, your budgets are what they said. That does not mean that the state will not come back and say, no, we're gonna cut this department this amount and this department that amount. You will have the same 10 days as the council does to try to make up your mind where you wanna cut from. You can move around. Greg, highway is a prime example. We added the extra that they approved tonight as far as the advertising. If you decide you wanna keep that extra $79,400 and some dollars in your bituminous and stone line item, then you would have to cut in other areas to equal.
Larger.
So that might help you out in your planning. The highway is usually one of the first ones that is cut, as you well know. But maybe they'll only cut that 79,000 and you'll be fine, but
I fully expect to be cut about 275,000, so
I don't think it'll be that much, but,
that'd be great.
but
They always
again,
find
you
something.
can move line items around, you can move, if they say we're cutting $10,000 from the treasurer's fund, it's up to